Hey America, it is Pastor Jason with the little bit of God, a little bit of encouragement. Oh, I'm getting that wrong, I'm sorry. A little bit of God, a little bit of humor, and a little bit of encouragement. This is the PJ Daily Show. Pastor Jason here. It's good to see you, or hopefully see you seeing me, I guess. Things are pretty good here in Weatherford, Oklahoma. We just had a whole bunch of rain, and God is doing some pretty cool things in the life of our church. Doing some pretty cool things in the life of my family. I've got a wife and 3 kids, and it's good to see them growing and hearing some things about God. It's amazing how my kids will bring some things back to me, helping me realize some things. I was just joking with my daughter this morning about some things about my skills or gifts and calling as a preacher. And my wife just gently reminded me, who was it that gave you those gifts to begin with? And I had to turn to my daughter and say, you know what? Mama's right. God put me here, and He's the one that gave me the gifts, because it's really about Him, and He deserves the credit for this. That's what it is to give glory to God. It's giving credit to Him for everything that we have, for everything that we do. Everything that God does is to make Himself famous, and that's why God exists. That's what God's ultimate goal is to be glorified. And one way that He designs Himself to be glorified is through your life and through my life. We are glorified when we glorify God, though, and whenever His fame is expanded in our life. What I told you yesterday about this whole concept, revolutionizing your life, when God is more glorified in your life, the more satisfying and fulfilling life you will experience. In other words, everything that we do is directed toward God. It is God-centered. Just as the sun, the planet, the thing that gives us light in the day, is the center of the solar system, so should God be the center of our lives as we revolve around God. Rather than the sun doesn't revolve around the planets to give the planets light, does it? It is the planets that revolve around the sun so that we can receive the light from the sun. That's what God should be in each of our lives. And so whenever we live focused lives directed toward God, and it's about God, and realizing that everything that God does is for Himself and it's for His own pleasure, realizing that He created us for His own pleasure, realizing that really everything that God has created and given us belongs to Him in the first place, we start to realize that maybe the direction and the motivation for our life needs to change just a little bit, correct? A verse here. English Standard Version here says in 1 Corinthians chapter 10, verse 31, and I want you to remember that, and think about this. Paul is writing a church that's struggling with some very difficult circumstances in the life of his church, dealing with some sexual sin, dealing with issues related to whether they should eat food sacrificed to idols, and they were saying, should we do this, should we not do that? And very performance-based questions about faith and religion. And I'm going to start talking about this performance-based religion that a lot of us live by, and whether that's biblical or not, starting next week. But right now, what I want you to focus on is that the question is whether they should eat food sacrificed to idols. How do we do things? What is our motivation for doing things to begin with? And this is Paul's question or answer right here. It's in 1 Corinthians chapter 10, on page 2206 in my Bible. I don't know if that's your page or not. 1 Corinthians chapter 10, verse 31. It says, "So whether you eat or drink, or whatever you do all to the glory of God." In other words, everything that motivates our life, everything that we do in our life should be directed toward what is going to happen to make God more famous in our life. And sometimes it's going to be negative moments, I promise. That doesn't eliminate suffering from your life. It doesn't eliminate catastrophe, financial burdens, stressful relationships from your life. But I want you to see that everything that you do in your life, in the midst of suffering, in the midst of blessing, in the midst of bad moments, in the midst of good moments, should all be directed toward the glory of God. He says, whether you eat, whether you drink, or whatever it is you do all to the glory of God. I just want to challenge you, and this is my first week on the air. I say the air, the internet airways or whatever. I just want to challenge you to really look at the direction of your life and how much of your faith, how much of your life, how much of your motivation to go to church is about making you happy, and how much of the things around you in your life, your family, your church, your pastor, the messages, how much do you see those things revolving around you as you perceive, falsely perceive I might add, to be the center of the universe of everybody around you? Or really are the things in your life and your very own life really exist and designed to revolve around the center of God, who should be the center of your universe? That's what it is to do all to the glory of God, because that's why God does anything. That's why God created you, and ultimately that's what God is calling each of us to do, to be the center, for God to be the center of our universe, and that we glorify God. To put it another way, everything we do is to give glory and credit and expand God's fame. Have a great weekend. I hope to see you here next Monday. We're going to have a good time with that. Look at me. I'm under 6 minutes. I'm still getting shorter and shorter. Have a great weekend. Don't forget to go to church, and not do it out of duty or obligation. Do it because it's a pleasure, and do it because it's out of your joyful heart. Love you. Bye.